Lisa Levine with Dementia Alliance, North Carolina. And we just want to thank you all for joining us today. We want to thank some of our sponsors, Eastside, Acadia, and Kent with Capital Financial. We want to thank everybody, but especially we want to thank Melanie for being here and sharing about the holidays with us today. Melanie, why don't you just go ahead and jump in? One reminder though, if everybody would like to turn on their cameras, we are okay with you eating breakfast and drinking your coffee while you're here, but we would love to see your faces. So Melanie, it's all you today. Go ahead.
So it gets really boring talking to a bunch of black rectangles. So I love to see faces. But if you're not showing your camera, I'm just going to assume you're naked. And that you couldn't, but I know most of y'all aren't. Well, welcome. And it's you know, it seems like the holidays are starting earlier every year. It seems like Halloween decorations were up by Labor Day, and it seems like Christmas decorations kind of overlapped with Halloween, and it just, everything seems to be kind of accelerated and getting busier and busier and busier. And so I was really delighted when Lisa asked me to spend some time with y'all doing a Q&A about this topic. I've done presentations and I've done sessions about the holidays, and I can do that. And there were some great questions that people were sending. So I'm really hoping we can do this more as, you know, what it's really supposed to be, as a question and answer, and not just so much of me doing my talking head kind of thing. Although I can do that too. So what are your, when I think about the holidays, and I am going to share a PowerPoint just to kind of get us started. And this idea that it's just kind of complicated, because Dementia Alliance, Dementia Question Answer, and this one is specifically about the holidays. You know, this year, you know, we've got the holidays, and the holidays are enough, and we add dementia into that, and that makes it, and we're still kind of, for most of us, aware at least of kind of the flickerings of COVID-19, because even though most of us are doing fine, older people are still really struggling with that condition. And so that's kind of in the back of my mind, is things are still a little different because of that. So I'm going to stop sharing and just open it up. What are your questions about the holidays with dementia? How do I, when do I, why do I, what do I? So what are your questions? And you can either unmute and say those out loud, or you can drop those into a chat, or you can even, if you want to be like incognito, you can private message me a chat so it doesn't go to everybody, so people won't know who it's from. So that's an option as well. So what are your questions about the holidays, about dementia, about how to make things work?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
To be honest, our parents don't even anticipate the next day, never mind the holidays. So it used to be a big deal in their minds and in their lives, but
they're not aware of it.
It's gone. They don't, they're in a nursing home. They both have dementia. They're in wheelchairs. They are together in a room, which was a hard thing to find to do, but we found that. And it's just getting tougher and tougher to see some of the way that things happen in a nursing home, things falling through the cracks, and trying to be on top of it. It's overwhelming.
Yeah. So are y'all sisters?
Yes.
And one of you is Jenny, and who is the
Jeannie.
other?
I'm Jeannie. This is Lynn.
Jeannie and Lynn. Okay. I just try to use people's names when I can. So Jeannie and Lynn. So you added another layer in there that you've got holidays and you've got dementia and you've got COVID, and then you've got this where the people are in their dementia, and the idea that you're continuing to try to manage this other system of care to kind of make that work. And that's a full-time job. And then adding another full-time job or two in there makes it really hard. So are there things that your parents, so they don't anticipate the holidays, and they don't keep up with, it's Sunday, it's time for church, or it's Saturday, it's time for synagogue. They don't track those kind of things. Are there some things that do bring them joy? Do they respond to music, or do they respond to special food, or do they respond to familiar voices? Are there anything that you can tell some difference with?
My father will go to any activity that includes food, so that works. My mother's very negative. If you ask her, if you give her a yes or no question, she will say no,
Always
no
no.
matter what it is.
Even to us.
So if she says no, she doesn't want to go to an activity, he won't push it.
Right.
So they don't do anything. They sit in their room together all day.
In
every day.
wheelchairs. Yeah.
Will he go without her?
If she's sleeping, we've finally gotten
If
him
she's
to go,
sleeping.
and he does enjoy the activities.
So a couple of things about that. If and I know, I mean, that automatic no, is real. That automatic no. So, Mom, do you want to go to this? No. That automatic no is real. Have you tried offering her choices, like, do you want to do this or this? Where no isn't one of the choices.
Sometimes, and she will just say, I don't know. Like you said yesterday, when you asked her about whether she was going back to bed or
Oh, yeah.
getting up, or where she wanted to
Like
go.
if she's on the edge of the bed, I said, are you getting up now? Or do you want me to help you get in bed and rest? Because she sleeps a lot. She says, I don't know. She's sitting at the edge of the bed. Finally, I will coax her to do one or the other.
Yeah.
But
And that kind of gets into some of the idea of how much language is she understanding, that. And so I sometimes do things that don't use a lot of words. Like if I were to, okay, I have coffee. So there are a lot of mornings, if y'all were to say, Melanie, do you want to get up? What would my answer be?
No.
No, I don't want to get up. I don't want to get up. I don't want to get up. But if you say, Melanie, do you want your caramel truffle coffee or do you want plain coffee? I might have a preference about that. So when it comes to the holidays, it might be if my everyday thing is, regular coffee, and I get caramel truffle coffee. I don't know if it's truffle, it's caramel something coffee. Then that's going to make me want to do it. So with the holidays, sometimes we can do things with, if you say, Mom, do you want to listen to some Christmas music? The answer is probably going to be no. But if you put on some Christmas music, then you might kind of see some rocking
I
around the
actually
Christmas
have
tree.
tried that, because I found a radio where you can set it to one station and set the volume, and then you remove the controls. So that works for them. There's just an on-off button. My dad likes it. My mom doesn't want it on. She doesn't like it. So they
Yeah,
don't do that
she
either.
doesn't like loud noise. They close the door of their room from the hall all the time. They insist it be closed, which is really unfortunate because staff doesn't tend to look in on them.
Because they don't want help. So the staff has gotten kind of standoffish, they don't want my help.
Yeah.
So I'm good. So there are lots of things going on here, and some of them are, so let's hold on to some of those things. You hold on to some of those things, and let's talk a bit broader. And then we're going to come back to you later on and see if some of the other folks' conversation or some of the other things that we discussed kind of resonate with you. We aren't forgetting about you. We're just going to hold on to you for a minute. So what other things do people have in mind about the holidays, or about questions about how do we, when do we, why do we, what do we? What are some other questions?
Hey, so my father-in-law is easily overwhelmed by a crowd of more than 2 people, and there are going to be about 23 people at their house. So how can we help him not be overwhelmed all the time? How can we make it so that he's more comfortable in, in his own home under that circumstance?
Okay, so is this the way, so these are some generic questions. Is that the way y'all have always done the holidays? Is everybody gets together at their house?
Mostly at their house, sometimes other places, but yeah, we've managed to have like that whole extended family together many times at Christmas.
Cool. And is that really important to y'all as a family?
Yeah. This might be the last time we do it at their place.
So this is kind of something that y'all have done whenever everybody can get there. It's something that means something to everybody. And what does that event involve? Is there a meal? Are there kids? Tell me more about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's always meal, but we've got the our generation, our kids, so all of those cousins all together. They're all grown adults now. Some of them even have children, so there will be a couple of great grandchildren there this time. It's pretty much a free-for-all. We like to play some games, some cards, some table games, some board games, all kinds of things.
So what are the most so it's multi-generational, which sounds like a blast to me. Although truthfully, how many of y'all say, I really want to have 23 people come to my house? That's a lot of people. And yay, it's wonderful, exciting. My brother and sister-in-law do that for our family, and they enjoy it. So some people really love that. And I love the experience. And it's a lot. So you've got multi-generations, everybody from your parents down to the great-grandchildren. There's a meal involved, there are board games involved, and it's a real, so one of the things I use, and I'll go ahead and show this to you. I was planning to show it later, but I'll go ahead and show this. I use a model to kind of think about the holidays. And the model that I use is based on peace. And never fear. You can either, take a quick snapshot of this, or I'll be sending it to Lisa because I put some other things in it for today, Lisa. And Lisa will send it out to people on the call. But it's this idea of prioritize, which is really think about what of these pieces are really the most important. So what of the whole experience is really the priority. The empathize is to really look at it from that perspective of that person living with dementia. So what would it look like through their perspective? Because if I've got dementia and all of a sudden a tree shows up in my living room, that may or may not be okay. I talk mostly from a Christian perspective because that's my background, but there's similar things that happen in all kinds of homes. Then the A that stands for adjust is kind of like, how do we then adjust what we're doing to match what's really important, which is everybody being together at the same time, and the person living with dementia being able to tolerate it, to adjust that maybe we have a really simple meal because what we really want to do is spend time playing board games, or maybe we just have coffee and brunch instead of having a sit down, or maybe have a buffet instead of a sit down. So what are the adjustments we can make to work better, still holding on to those priority pieces, but making some adjustments to make it, being flexible to make it something that the person living with dementia can not just survive, but actually enjoy. So finding, that E is for enjoy, and that's for the person living with dementia. That's for us taking time away from our caregiving responsibilities to be with the person as a family instead of as the daughter or the son or the spouse or the partner who's managing the care. To be able to find that that moment, really be part of the grandchildren's lives, part of the moment. So it's not just about being a care partner during the experience. And then going back to the C really stands, Matt said this might be the last time we do this way. So let's capture all of that. Everybody's got a cell phone. Let's get lots of little short video clips. Let's get clips of mom eating the cherry pie or whatever, or the grandkid with the chocolate smeared all over their face. Let's great grandkids. Let's make sure we really capture those moments. So if we kind of use this as a model, and then we go back to Matt's question and some of the other questions, like how do you manage 23 people? How do you manage 15 people? How do you manage to really start breaking it down? Does everybody need to be there at the same time? Is that because that might be really important? So if that's really important, maybe not as many things happen during that time. So if we're going to have 23 people, maybe we have something really simple for a meal. Yeah, and so really start to think about what things are valued. And I'm trying to put this in words. So be patient with me if I struggle a little bit. What things are valuable because we've always done them and because we've always done them that way? And what things are valuable because they're really meaningful to us as families? And I'll give you an example from my own family. So the first Christmas of COVID, we decided to meet outside as a family, and we struggled with Thanksgiving with masking and eating and the whole thing. So for our Christmas thing, my brother brought in a bunch of Bojangles biscuits, because there's something you can just step to the side, you can eat them. Who doesn't love a Bojangles biscuit? All different kinds of things. And so instead of having a sit down meal, we did the food that way and got to be together around the fireplace outside. So it's that idea of kind of why are we doing this? Are we doing this because it adds value and meaning, or are we doing it because we've always done it? So some really, really hard questions, some really, really hard things to think about. So so what are your thoughts? So I'm gonna get back to the core of your question in just a minute, Matt, but does that kind of give you a bit of a frame?
Yeah, as you're talking, several things occur to me. One is, well, the rest of us all like being together as a big group, but that's overwhelming for him. So I think the idea that we would, continue to do that because the rest of us all get so much out of that, but find ways to help him sort of have more one-on-one with various people. Maybe we kind of, as a group, I'll say, okay, everybody kind of keep an eye out, and if he's sitting there by himself sometime, you just go talk to him. Anytime we see him like by himself, someone just go have a one-on-one with him and sort of make.
Did Matt freeze or did I freeze? So Matt kind of froze. So he'll be back in a minute. So I love that idea of the direction that he's going with, kind of not everybody has to be part of everything. So letting people kind of pick and choose the pieces they want to be at, the pieces they enjoy, the pieces that are valuable to them. And we are in North Carolina, so it's likely that there could be some outside time, which it seems like being outside kind of diffuses everything. If you've got kids running around, I think Matt left, but if you've got kids running around in the yard, it's just different than having kids running around in that kitchen. So if we can get some outside time, that can be really helpful. That's also really helpful if they're pets and things. And he was talking about, I bet he goes back and listens to this. He was talking about, having dad have a place to be that was kind of a nest. Hey, Matt, welcome back. So we were kind of talking about, really appreciating the idea of giving your dad a place to kind of nest and giving him some time alone, and giving him some time with individual family members, and maybe even getting the kids outside. It's North Carolina, there are very few days that little kids can't be outside in North Carolina, and little kids outside are diffused over little kids inside. Or maybe, dad goes with one of the family members he doesn't get to spend as much time with, and then go run an errand, to get him kind of away and out for a few minutes. That might be, and I don't know him, that might be better, that might be worse, but kind of maybe getting him out for a few minutes. Dad, would you help me? I've got to go pick up, I've got to get gas for the trip tomorrow. Would you come help me? Or somebody's got to run out, and to just kind of get him out of that space for a little bit.
Yeah, take him out of the chaos. That's a good thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, the other thing I was starting to mention when my connection dropped was you had mentioned about the caregiver, and it hadn't really occurred to me. Well, my mom takes care of him all the time, and at her house with all these people and her worrying about him, that's going to be overwhelming for her. And so maybe the idea that we say, look, Mom, don't worry about him. We've got him. And help her have a better time at this gathering.
Yeah. So she can spend some time with the great grandchildren.
Right.
And say, Mom, the kids are getting on my nerves. Would you mind hanging out we got Dad? Would you mind going and playing a game with the kids? Because we've got Dad. If the kids are getting on our nerves, could you, and so it kind of gives her that excuse. And
yeah, I think we'll do that this time.
Cool. So some great ideas that not everything is going to work for everybody, but you pull out the things that might be meaningful. So what other questions do people have about their situation, about managing the holidays, or some other kinds of things that might be going on?
Hi, I'm Lori.
Hi, Lori.
Hi, I'm zooming in from Rehoboth Beach, Delaware.
Oh, welcome. I bet it's cold up there.
It's chilly today, yeah, but it's fine. It's November. Thanks for being here. And this may not generally be related to the holidays, but maybe relationship issues around my loved one. Okay. My loved one's been recently diagnosed, and I'm in the process of, like wrapping my head and arms around what's happening here, and needing support, and coming to podcasts and so forth has been very helpful. We haven't shared this diagnosis too broadly yet in our family, just because I haven't really gotten the words yet to talk about these changes, and so it's difficult sometimes. For example, I don't seem to have the energy and the mental bandwidth to deal with family issues and family problems and family concerns the way that I had previously, because so much of my energy and concern and grace that I need really is being directed to a person who is changing before my eyes, you know, and I'm being tugged. I'm really feeling a tug. And I don't want to hurt people's feelings, but I also don't have the ability right now to bring everybody into this conversation because it's too much. It's just too much for me.
Mhm.
So I'm feeling like I need to come up with some language to set some healthy boundaries around some concerns and fretting and oh my God kinds of things. Like I don't need that right now
Right.
from them. I need, you got this. You're going to be okay. You're going to be fine. You're going to learn how to deal with this. You'll manage. You know, you're stronger than you think you are. That's the kind of messaging I need from my sister, particularly, I'm talking about, who is just badgering me constantly. I don't even know if this is an appropriate topic for this. If
Well,
it
and I-
isn't, just shut me down. But that's kind of where I'm at right now, and I'm struggling.
And I think as I look around the room, I see people with eyes full of compassion and appreciation. So I'm gonna, and I do think it connects with the topic. And so I'm gonna say a couple of things. And one thing I'm gonna say is hang in there. And if you're not getting what you need from your sister, my guess is you've probably never gotten what you need from your sister.
Mhm,
And so we won't send this recording to your sister.
mhm,
Um, but find other places. So maybe find we've got some online support groups that are valuable and meaningful. You know, I can see people in this room who are sending you love, you know, and sending you support and sending you compassion. So if you can't find it from your sister, find it with the people who get it. And sometimes it's really hard. We talk a lot about flexibility for the holidays and thinking about what we're really doing. And I think sometimes there's really a place to be flexible with our expectations of who is going to be our partners, you know, in this journey. And you want family to be your partners, but preparing family for changes is a full-time job. And so that was actually one of the questions that came up was, you know, how do I share that this person is changing, and when they come for the holidays, it's going to be different this year. You know, how do I prepare family for that? How do I prepare people from the faith community for that? How do I prepare people in our neighborhood about that? How do I prepare friends from out of town for that? And my experience has been people know something is different. You know, people realize that things are different, and not telling people doesn't keep them from worrying and from knowing. So I'm going to open it up to the group. Has anybody had experience with telling people, not telling people? I've encouraged people, and one thing that has been helpful to some people, may or may not, you may or may not have this person, is to find a person whose job is to pass on information, you know, to find that person who we do this often more when people are in the hospital, that there's a person who sends out the updates and does that. But we can do that for dementia as well, that this is the person I communicate with, and then that person spreads the word, because I can't do both of those roles. So that might be something. But for other people, how have you dealt with sharing changes and preparing people that things are going to be different this year? What kind of things have you tried that worked, and what did you try that didn't work? So Diana put in so that's a really good idea. Diana put in maybe send an email update ahead of time to kind of explain the situation, explain what you need, explain how things are changing. And I think that's a really great thought of being upfront with it. You know, people send out a Christmas letter with all the updates to send out an email and say, things are different this year. You know, it's been a challenging year. These are the changes that are happening, and this is what you can do. So if dad tells you that I'm stealing all of his money, I promise you I'm not stealing all of his money. You know, some helpful responses might be, Dad, you're really worried about the money. You've always been good at taking care of the money. You know, let me see if I can check into what's going on. So, you know, with some scripts for people to follow. If mom asks, you know, why isn't Barbara here, and Barbara died 5 years ago? Oh, you're thinking about Barbara. I remember when Barbara used to bring that pecan pie, and we've never been able to find one that compared to that. You know, so to give them, here's some things you may notice, and here are some suggestions for how to respond to that. Because I think a lot of time what throws people is they want to help, but they don't know what to do. You know, so and some people are much better at talking than they are at doing, and they're much better at worrying than they are at helping. And it's just part of what goes on. I also see that going back up in the chat, there were a couple of things that I missed. One was, and I love what Dottie said, is she's already kind of been through some of this prioritizing. And some of the prioritizing she came up with was, we are going to keep it small, and we are going to keep it early in the afternoon. So yay, Dottie. Celebrate Dottie for making some limits and finding some ways to deal with it. And now, how is she going to tell people that they aren't invited? And so it might be that suggestion that Dana came up with of an email or something to say, this is the situation. You know, we want to have a good experience. The holidays are going to be overwhelming. This is what we're doing, and here are some other times you can sign up to be with us. You know, or so it's sometimes, I've learned in my career, you know, I've been a nurse 112 years, and I've learned that there's a big difference between telling people no and telling people not now. And so if I tell people, no, you can't come to Christmas, or no, you can't come to Thanksgiving, if I tell them no, then it's harder than if I say, we're keeping this really small, so that's not. And you know, we would love any Sunday in January, we would love to have company. You know, so instead of saying no, saying not now. So Dottie is giving me a clapping hands. So it looks like Dottie is happy with that idea, either of the email or let's kind of set up a meal train, you know, so and kind of a visit train. Do y'all know meal trains? So meal trains are is something my church sets up, where when somebody has a new baby or somebody's been in the hospital, people sign up for different meals. So it's not like everybody brings their casserole the Sunday that the baby is born and there's no food for the rest of the month. You know, everybody kind of signs up for a different meal. So people kind of sign up for a different experience across the month. We would love to have, you know, a couple people come the Sunday after the holiday or something like that. So Dottie also put in there, to be honest, that they add to my stress. And that we all have a right to set boundaries, and we all have a right to say that I can't, my focus is really on mom, and I love you, and I just can't do it right now. Part of what happens is if you put your hand like this, everybody put their hand like this. So this is my perspective. Now put your hand like this. This is the other person's perspective. And what happens when we're stressed is we do this, because I can see my perspective, they can see their perspective, and we wind up just butting our heads. And so if I take care of myself, there's potential that I can see the other person's perspective and figure out a way to make it work. But if I'm exhausted and I'm emotionally overwhelmed, I can't do that work. And sometimes it's kinder just to say, I love you, and I'm struggling. I love you, and I'm barely keeping my head above water. And you're pouring buckets on me. And I'm overwhelmed, and I love you, and I can't do this right now. So I'm glancing to see, I think Lisa put in something that was previous about if the person isn't at home anymore, how do you keep them involved? And I think it goes back to, I'm going to share my screen again. I think it goes back to looking at these pieces again. So if we think about what are the important things about the holiday? Is the important thing that we are all in the living room together at the same time with our own, is that environment really critically important? And it may be, there's no judgment or no recommendation in there at all. Is having everybody in the space the priority, and we can manage that transition and make it work? Or is the priority really that we conserve that energy for something that might be more meaningful, which might be opening gifts? So how much of that it's I think this idea of starting to really think about energy and attention and self-control as being finite resources. Instead of, we think about money and time being finite. I think we lose sometimes that for us and for the person living with dementia, energy is a finite resource, and attention is a finite resource, and being able to use your company manners is a finite resource. And so if we use all our energy getting to and from home, we might not have the energy for some of the activities, or it might be that coming into that environment lifts us up and energizes us, and being there together in that familiar space is what needs to happen over the holiday. So I see Dana's patiently got her hand up. Dana, can you unmute and tell me what your comment or your question is? I can't hear you yet, Dana. Are you on a, let's see.
There we go.
There you go. Good job.
All right. I gotta go back. Okay, so I hang on a minute. I really wanted to respond to Lori and everything that she said. Well, I totally get where she is. So my loved one is my husband, and we started this journey about 7 years ago. So we've been in it for a while. And I guess I just want to say that I understand about how overwhelmed you are, but you need to protect yourself, and worry more. I guess what I'm saying is not people are not really going to understand until they're in your shoes. And so my suggestion was about writing an email, because every year we get our whole family together, and it's very overwhelming. Luckily, I don't have I only have one thing at my house, and the family does most of it. Are you having any are you hosting anything, Lori? Are you hosting any activities or are you hosting?
Not coming up for these holidays, but she's already asking me we live at the beach, and she's already asking me, like last July, they all came down, my niece, nephew, the kids and everybody, and it was fine. It was fun. But now already it's just November. She's already asking me for next July, and I'm just barely getting through Wednesday. I don't have it right now to make that kind of plan.
Is your loved one your husband?
My husband, yes.
Wow, yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I'm like with Dottie, you need to be honest with her, because she's not going to know unless you tell her. So you need to maybe sit down, and I would say write an email, because that way they can go back and look at it. Because if you're just telling her all this stuff, I know half of it will go right over her head while she's processing everything. But if you write it down, and then you yourself educate yourself, and then send her some emails so they can educate, your friends, because if it hadn't been in the family or whatever, it just takes a lot, I guess educate, right? Don't you think, Melanie? Education is really one of the best things. And Matt, I really loved your idea about separating, because my husband, we have Thanksgiving, it's at my daughter's house, but it's a lot of people, it's like 20 some people, and he gets overwhelmed. And so I'm going to put him outside, and I think I'm going to write my family and say maybe lots of nieces and nephews, and maybe just pick a time to go out and just talk with him, just one-on-one, because it's the noise. These, I can't remember, someone was saying they were hosting it, and it's just all the noise that makes them crazy. If they get overwhelmed, I don't know. And they can't process everything. And it's just, I don't know. But if you can figure out something to do with them, like Matt, when y'all are playing games, maybe put your dad in another room where it's calm. Because that's what I do with my husband when he loves music, and he just gets overwhelmed. And so he has this little room where he has music, and he plays all his records and stuff. And it's amazing. In about 10 or 15 minutes, he comes back and he's fine. Just needs sort of something to, and you just have to figure most of this out on your own. But there are a lot of support groups.
They have a lot of different rooms in their house, and I'm thinking, maybe three of us grab him and go play cards in some other room away from all the other noise. Now he's got some hearing problems also, which contributes, as soon as you get that much chaos going around, like he can't sift anything out.
Well, and it's the processing thing. So it doesn't matter what kind of dementia you have. Mine has PPA. By the time they get to stage, it's all the same. Alzheimer's symptoms looks just like PPA when you get to that point where they have really short-term memory, and the sequencing and all that. So does he actually play cards still? Matt, can he play cards?
Some days he can, some days he can't.
Yeah, well, if he's not, maybe find a room where he can watch a movie, or we've gone to YouTube and have dragged up old Johnny Carson reruns. We have videos of he loves James Taylor. That's what he's doing right now. While I'm in here, he's watching James Taylor videos. Billy Joel. We do I don't know, ELO, whatever that, I don't know your dad, but this is my husband, who was born in 60. And they go on, and then they just go to the next one, and he's just so happy in there right now. And then they have old game shows you can go and log in, and it's funny. But YouTube is amazing. It's become like a sort of a babysitter, but he's just happy when he's doing it, and it brings back great memories. And So, or movies, but he loves the YouTube stuff. So this is kind of a recent thing. So,
So
yeah.
those are some great ideas, Dana. I love that idea of, I love that you brought up, does he play cards? You know, because it makes me think there's so many different ways of playing cards. You know, that maybe if he's a person who's always liked to be helpful, you know, maybe what you can do is buy a bunch of cards that have different backs on them, mix them all up, put him, you know, say, Dad, the kids have gotten all these cards mixed up. Could you help me sort these out? And so then he's feeling like he's helping, he's doing something that he can do, so he's feeling successful and part of. If you could sort the poker chips for us, you know, that would be a great thing. So kind of finding those ways to simplify, modify, so the person can still be involved. I want to be part of things. So when, you know, when things are going on in my house or I want to still be involved in them. And maybe I can't do it at the same level that I could. So the other thing that Dana brought up that I didn't want to lose is the idea that, oh, I love what Jenny said, you know, maybe play checkers or something, a game that's one-on-one instead of a big group game, you know, play something one-on-one with Dad. So he's doing a parallel activity that he can be successful. Another really good suggestion. The other thing I didn't want to lose from what Dana said was the idea that people really don't know how hard it is, because they kind of see people when they're in, you know, for a brief period of time in a social situation, in a situation that really is a strength-based situation, and they don't know how hard it is a lot of the rest of the time. And so they don't realize that last year having everybody come to the beach, woohoo, yay, this year, you know, that might not be an option. So there's a story, and really there was a family, and second marriage, the husband had dementia. The second wife got to the point where taking care of the husband at home alone wasn't successful. It wasn't something she could do. She made the hard decision, that he needs to live in an assisted living. I can't do this. His children got really distressed. You know, Dad married you, he took care of you. How dare you not take care of him? So and I don't recommend this. I am not recommending this. So she put Dad on a plane and sent him off to be with the children for the holidays. Dad came, one-way ticket. Dad came back from the holidays, one-way ticket, and a big check to help out with the assisted living. You know, so sometimes people just really don't get how complicated it is, or how you know, thinking again about giving the care partner some time off, you know, how you know, when my son was young, as you know, our family was the two of us, and always had been the two of us, the only time I really felt like I was off was when I was on a plane, you know, because that was really the only time I wasn't in charge. And so finding some ways for that primary care partner not to feel like they are carrying the whole weight might be a real choice. I want to go back up and look what Lisa wrote. Lisa wrote, the kids want to watch their favorites, but if we put on something from the childhood, the grandmas from grandkids want to watch their favorite shows, but if we put on something from Mom's thing, that grandma really loved it. So we think about the things that we love from their childhood, and we miss the things that they love from our childhood. So that generational piece, that I might remember things that I did with my son as well as I remember things that I did as a child. So I think that's a beautiful thing. And then Tamara put in articles. So we've got, and maybe Lisa can, when she sends out the PowerPoint, maybe can send out some links to some of the Dementia Alliance, some empathetic communication, or, you know, some of the videos that are part of Dementia Alliance, or other things that might be kind of helpful that you can send out to families ahead of time, to let them know what to expect, and to give them some ideas of how to respond. Yeah, that people would rather know ahead of time than to make mistakes and do it wrong. People would rather have. And the other thing is, and this is just true, is sometimes people don't believe it when it comes from family. You know, I am a nurse practitioner and I go all over the country and teach about aging and dementia. And my mom was on a medication that caused constipation. And I said, well, Mom, maybe you need to drink more water and eat more fiber. And it was still a problem. And I said, well, Mom, maybe you need to drink more water and eat more fiber. And it was still a problem. So went to the neurologist, and the neurologist said, well, Ms. Bunn, I think you need to drink more water and eat more fiber. And my mother wrote it down. You know, so it's like sometimes it's just gotta be from, you know, that authority. You know, it's just gotta be a Melanie said, or a Lisa said, or, you know, Dana said. It's gotta be from somebody else. It doesn't, you know, coming from that family member, sometimes that just doesn't work the same way. So that's my other thought. So I want to kind of check back in with Jenny or Jeannie, I think, Jeannie and Lynn, and see, have you gotten some, is it Jeannie or is it Jenny?
Jeannie.
I got it right, Jeannie. So I want to check back in with Jeannie and Lynn. Any of this starting to be kind of interesting or helpful, or give you some ideas?
We're kind of in a different situation because the two of them are in a skilled nursing facility, and there is not family here. So there will not be a big gathering or anything like that.
So then we pull back to, maybe it's not then finding a way to make it the holidays for your family. Maybe you bring your dad food, and you do something with your mom, and you do something. Maybe it's about, what do the two of y'all need to do for each other to kind of offer you some sense of special during the holiday. So maybe it's about building some new traditions with the two of you about, how do we make our journey as care partners, how do we make it special for us? You know, maybe we make some old family recipes and we take them to Dad to enjoy, or maybe but how do we make it special for us? If the things we can do for parents are limited, maybe how do we make it special? So I'm also looking, Tamara wrote down,
That
And like-
was a good suggestion. We've done that. We bring photo albums over because their minds are, they're living at when they were like just married. That's all they talk about. Or maybe my dad's years in the service, so in the 40s. They're not into when us kids grew up, or the grandchildren. They don't even ask about family. And so we bring photo albums mostly of trips they took together, things like that.
And avoiding photos that have deceased family members, which there's quite a few at this point, since our parents are in their 90s. It just makes
is
more.
that it, do you avoid those because it distresses them, or because it's hard
They
to
don't
answer?
understand.
She doesn't remember that her sister passed away a few years
So
ago.
why does she need to understand that her sister passed away?
She gets upset
She
every
gets
time.
upset. What happened? Where is she?
So when she looks at the picture of her sister, she starts missing her sister.
I don't know.
She gets upset.
So seeing the pictures of her sister distress her.
So we only show them pictures that they traveled together, things they did together, because they've been married 75 years.
Yeah.
And they, had full lives together. So we pretty much don't show other pictures that they don't understand where those people are, what happened. They can't remember. Why keep telling her sister died? I mean, it doesn't help.
So that's
know.
what I was
Right, so
curious
don't.
about. That's what I was curious about. So absolutely, you don't want to keep telling people, yeah, they're dead, they're dead. But if I get dementia, I had this little dog named Dixie. And Dixie was the love of my life before my son was born. So if I get dementia and I look at pictures of Dixie, I might love seeing the pictures of Dixie and go, oh, look how little she is. Look there, she's sitting up on the mantelpiece. So I might love that. And if I love that, if I enjoy seeing those pictures, then I need to see those pictures. On the other hand, if I look at the pictures of Dixie and I go, well, where is she? Did somebody let her out? Then we don't look at the pictures of Dixie. But it doesn't automatically mean we can't look. It's going to depend on their response to them. But I'm never going to tell them, or not never, but it's going to be really unlikely to tell somebody this person is gone. So I'm glad
And
we talked about it.
can I just make a comment to Lori? My heart goes out to her. I felt like she's holding on to all of this change by herself. And I feel like it would be good. Emails are great or texts, because it's a more peaceful way. And I think she needs to, it feels like, I could be wrong, but it feels like she does need to share what she's going through. And if it's people that don't understand, then go to someone who does understand, and don't do this alone. You need to share this, and you'll be surprised that will lessen your burden and bring the people who do understand back into your communication, even if you don't see people, even if they're far away and you're able to communicate with them over the internet or whatever. Do that with people who have known you and who will now know your situation, so that you're not holding that all by yourself, because you're not alone, really. I feel like you're obviously grieving, and just as any kind of grief, you need to share it with people who will understand and love you. Anyway.
And I can't think of a better way to kind of pull it together. There's a term, and it's found family. And I think as you're going on this journey of dementia, whether it's during the holidays or whether it's just the journey, sometimes it's the family that you find along this way. That's really the family that you need to cling to and prioritize. You know, the family in support groups, or the family in your community, or the family, maybe Lori, you want to reach out to some of the people on the call and say, do you have time for, a virtual coffee sometime? And it's about that found family who gets it, because there are a lot of people out there who love you, but their expectations aren't right for now. It's not that they don't love you, it's that they do love you, but they don't get it. And so finding that found family of people who get it is where you really want to invest your time and energy. So I want to thank y'all for joining. Lisa dropped in the chat, if you've got other questions, reach out for that. I've got the PowerPoint that I'll send to Lisa, and she'll send that out. And, we will continue to do these. So maybe we need to have just some non-topic Q&As, that are just kind of open door, walk in the house and ask a question. Or maybe there are other topics that you would be more interested in. Reach out to, hey, Lisa, maybe put a link to the support groups in as well. because I think that might be something that might, but it's 10 o'clock. We could go, this is one we could have gone till 12.
Melanie, I will definitely share the link to support groups, and there are a lot of virtual support groups on there. Even Lori, you don't live in North Carolina, please reach out for those groups. They take people from anywhere. And I just want to thank everybody for sharing today and joining us. We will send out all this information to you and a recording. So if you do want to share the recording with someone else, you're welcome to do that. It will be on our YouTube channel. So we do wish you all very happy, peaceful holidays. And we want to say thank you so much to Melanie, and thank you for joining us. Everybody take care.